Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Tony's Spot on Fishing. I'm your host, Tony Krizek, and today we're doing something a little bit different. We're actually out on the ponds and little bodies of water here in the Chicagoland area because we have a very big cold front that's rolled through the area. We've had temperatures steady through the month of September in the 70s, approaching almost 80. And right now we've had it's barely 60 degrees out here. Strong north winds are blowing, almost too hard to really even put a boat in anywhere and fight the winds. So on today's episode, we're gonna show you some little things you can do on these small bodies of water fishing from shore that'll help salvage a day on the water for you. Just because conditions aren't right for putting the boat in doesn't mean you can't go fishing. And that's what we're gonna show you this week on Tony's Spot on Fishing. With the cold front that's passed through here on us right now, we're gonna have to really be open to trying a lot of different presentations to get these fish to eat. Really no different when we're on ponds or these small little bodies of water than if we're on a big body of water in the boat. So what we like to do, what I'm gonna actually start out fishing with is a skirted jig. I go pretty light, just about 3/16 of an ounce. And I like to keep it small and compact. I don't want anything too big. I don't want this to be a big summertime presentation. So I'll trim that skirt even with the bend of my hook, and then I'll just run a real small trailer to it. Now this skirt I actually bought separately and placed it on a jig here. It's actually a little bit of a bluegill pattern. And when you're in these little ponds, this is what these bass feed on quite heavily, is the bluegills. Mike's with us today. He's going to be throwing a Cinco right now to start with, and you can play around with that, Texas rigged or wacky rigging. But the name of the game is going to be slow and trying to figure out what these fish want. But we're going to play around. We brought some rattle baits, some swim baits, jerk baits as well. Anything we would generally throw under a cold front situation, we're still going to do that even from the bank out here. The rattle bait is going to be moving a little quicker. It's just a way to find real active fish. You may only catch 1 or 2 on it, but you can cover a lot of water and find them. Once you find them, then you can slow down and fish your soft plastics, your jigs and things of that nature, and even a swim bait. But versatility, that's going to be the name of the game today. Let's go catch them. Oh, there we go. We got that guy on that swim bait there. It's a little guy, but at least it's a start. Pretty gold coloring. Sometimes, you know, you just gotta take what you can get when these conditions turn this bad. But there's one. It ain't big, but we'll find some bigger ones out here. That's spot on fishing right there. Now there's 2 types of swim baits that you guys can run. The one we're using right now today is that pre-rigged swim bait. This is that Berkeley swim shad. And they come pre-rigged from the manufacturer. You get about 5 of them in a pack. Has the jig head up in front, the plastic's molded around it, and the hook is freely exposed on the body of the bait. Now, what's nice about this, especially if you're not in too weed choked of an areas, and where we're at right now, we actually got a nice clearing in the weeds. They're down. We can run a bait like this. But you guys can also run the Bass Magic, Yum swim baits, any of those. Lake Fork has a swim bait as well. And you can Texas rig those if you were in a little bit thicker cover. But what these fish are doing, they're a little bit sluggish. They're around and they're coming up and they're grabbing, and we're feeling them grab onto the tail of that swim bait. And we kind of just got to give it a second to let them make that next bite up. So when we're running swim baits like this and those fish are acting like this, we definitely want to run monofilament line so it has that stretch to it. And this is that P-Line CX. It is a fluorocarbon coated mono, so it does help get the swim bait down a little bit. It'll help it sink a little bit, but it still has enough give that'll give us that stretch. And I'm actually running it on spinning tackle because it's a light setup, and we're doing that medium light rod. So we got a little bit more give to the rod, which will also help those fish suck that bait in when they're a little bit sluggish. But looks like we finally found a pattern on them. Like I said, versatility is the key when you're out here in these cold front situations on these ponds. Be versatile. And today we found it. It's a swim bait pattern. There we go. Come here, little girl. Oh.
Oh, that's...
That one's getting a little bit bigger, at least, from that first one we caught this morning. Again, we're catching these fish on that swim bait. And what we've done, we kind of got out of the wind a little bit. It was getting a little bit rough out there. But we got out of the wind a little, and we're still fishing. Still fishing that swim bait. And that fish actually ate it pretty aggressively in comparison to those first few bites we had this morning, where they were just kind of coming up and grabbing onto the tail. So that's a good sign. These shallower flats will be a little bit warmer water. There's still some good vegetation around this area. And that's kind of the things you want to look for, especially under these cold front conditions on these small little bodies of water, the little ponds, creeks, little river tributaries you may find, backwater areas. Try and find the shallower water. It'll be a little bit warmer. Still has some good vegetation on this area, and I think we're going to catch quite a few more fish here. Oh yeah, that's a better fish. Oh, come here. Come here.
Oh, hey.
My goodness, she wanted that swim bait there. No doubt about that one. Yeah, I'll tell you what, even when conditions aren't too good and you get kicked off your bigger bodies of water, these small little ponds, I'll tell you what, you can still salvage a day, even if it's horrible weather conditions. Massive cold front, the threat of rain, strong northwest winds, we're still catching fish. That's spot on fishing. Oh, that one tried for it. Just ran out of real estate for her to grab it. There we go. Oh man, there we go. That's the third fish here in just a matter of about 10 minutes. Like I say, finding these shallow flats like this, that'll really get these fish going, especially your more aggressive fish that are still up feeding, especially in these small bodies of water. Find the shallow flats and you'll be able to catch these fish. And let me show you here exactly how we're retrieving our swim baits. What I'm doing, we're just firing them off, and just let it sink for just a second as you pick up that slack line, but it's just a real slow retrieve. You know, we really don't want that swim bait moving too much. We can integrate some pauses into it as well, let it fall. But for right now, especially on this shallow flat, they seem to definitely want it moving, just a nice, slow, steady retrieve. Now, when we were first on them this morning, our bites were all coming in a stop and go pattern. They wanted it, that bait falling a little bit, but deeper weed flats, deeper weed edges we were fishing at the time, dealing with a little bit less active fish. But up on this shallow flat, we still have some aggressive fish swimming around. Being a smaller lake too, you know, the water is still warmer, which is nice. So they're not as affected, you know, by the cold front situations like they would be on a big body of water. And sometimes food sources on small little ponds. There's not a lot for these fish to eat, so they do kind of tend to be a little more aggressive. So that's why we say, you know, when Mother Nature deals you a bad hand, you make the best of it and fish these small little ponds. There we go. That's a better fish. Oh my goodness, what do we got here? Oh yeah, good fish. Cameraman Bob, I'm gonna need to come down where you're standing there, my friend. Just because my 8-pound probably won't hold to swing this fish. This is a real good one, folks. Oh my goodness gracious. Folks, let me tell you, if you're not taking advantage of these little lakes, these little ponds, you're missing so much fun. Gosh, so many times we put so much emphasis on going to these big fish bodies of water. These little ponds like this though, they're holding good fish just like this. And I'll tell you what, even under cold front conditions, right there, big fish are still eating. That's beautiful. That's spot on fishing. Let's get her back. There we go. Whoa! Oh, he's leaping in a battler. Now that one just kind of sucked the bait in. Went back to that stop and go retrieve and just let him eat it. I mean, it's a little fish, but you know what? With as cold as it is and how drastic these temps have dropped, I mean, it beats sitting on the couch, that's for sure. So, like I said, that was a stop and go. Let me show you exactly what I was doing there on that one. Basically, just get the bait moving, integrate a little pause, and when we pause it, that bait's just going to kind of slowly flutter. The paddle tail keeps moving, but it mimics an injured or dying bait fish. And I tell you, these fish are, like I said, that's the first stop and go. Oh, jeez. That one, oh, you just kind of came out of nowhere on me. I was just about out of real estate there. And I was gonna go ahead and crank it in the rest of the way, make my next cast. And that one there, we sped it up a little bit. Fish ate it. I'll tell you, you never know what'll happen out here on these ponds. These first cold snaps in the first part of October, the first part of fall, I'll tell you what, fish these little ponds, get you some swim baits, have some fun, find the shallow flats, your warmer water. These fish are up on it. It's a blast. There we go. Boy, that's the best, when you just throw it out, make a nice long cast, and that fish happens to be up there right where you threw. Get that guy over that weed mat, get over that log. Right in the corner of the mouth. They're all fun. Oh, you got one. Mike's across the way there. Yep. And now what Mike's doing, he's fishing that same swim bait I am. And he's actually, he's going ahead and fishing what we call the mud flat of this pond. And it's strictly that. There's not much to it, just a lot of mud, gunk. But he finally stuck one over there. So that's a good sign that they're even relating to other parts of structure. What we're on is a shallow flat that's very close to the break line, the drop off of the deep basin here. So it kind of goes back to that classic structure where we got a nice flat and then access to deep water. There's vegetation. There's also, I'm standing on one pipe and there's a pipe just to the left of me. It's almost impossible for us to get a shot of that with the trees and the vegetation that has grown up around this pond. But there is some flow coming out of these pipes. So we get a little bit of current, which will help stir up the plankton and any little bugs or anything in the muck or the mud. It gets the bait fish up here, and then we also see the bass come in after them. They're feeding on the little bluegills, little shad, things of that nature. So those are kind of key areas to focus on the ponds, especially when we get conditions like this. And Mike was off on the other side fishing some of that deeper water. On the other side of the pond, he was able to access the deep water. Deepest spot's about 9-10 feet that we found out here when we've ice fished it. So nothing was really out in that main deep basin. But we've definitely caught quite a few fish off of these flats, and good to see that Mike got one off that mud flat. And that's the honest to God truth there. How to turn a bad weather day into a fun day on the water. Yeah, but you know, they're all fun. Well, we did, folks. We made a little move here and joined Mike over here on the mud flat. Our bike kind of slowed down where we were on the shallow weed flat. Mike's still been in them pretty good on that swim bait over here, so we figured we'll crowd him up and see if we can't steal some of his fish. If you guys get the opportunity to check out any of your subdivision ponds in the neighborhood, definitely take advantage of it. Even under situations where we have decent weather patterns, you'd be surprised how many fish are actually in these little subdivision ponds in your own neighborhoods. The one thing with this pond here, it's a very small body of water, and actually one of our producers lives on this particular pond. And never in a million years, because of how small it is or the size of it, would we ever think that there was going to be quality fish in here. Now, due to the conditions today, we were able to show you a few smaller fish, as well as one decent one that we did get out here. But that's the nice part about fishing these small little ponds. Even when Mother Nature deals you a bad hand, you can still get out here and catch fish. That's all the time we have for this week, everybody. Once again, I'm Tony Krizek. Don't know where we're going to be fishing next week, but we will get out there as well. We're going to have more great episodes from the salmon world. Fall muskies coming up. All kinds of great episodes on Tony's Spot On Fishing.